So this is it, my full take on the OnePlus Nord. I already gave my first impressions in a previous video. I'll link it down in the description, but it was all pretty good. Straight out of the box, I really felt like I was getting most of what I got with the OnePlus 8 Pro, but in a much cheaper package. And whilst I mostly feel this way after using this phone for more than a week now, there's definitely some corners that had to be cut that have me a little worried about some performance and some durability related stuff. But let's start from the beginning. This is a $399 beast of a phone, and if you go for the looks, they are on point. And especially if you go for the Dave2d Blue version, you will not be disappointed. I still would have preferred a matte finish, and the side rails are plastic and not metal. Even if they tried their best to make it look like metal, they're not. And in the past, I've had friends and family buy these phones with shiny plastic sides or even a matte but plastic sides, and along the years they definitely lose a lot of the shine, and some of them even turn to a white pastelish looking color. That's definitely not great, but just keep in mind that they will probably fade in color, and most importantly, just keep in mind that the phone is very easily scratchable on the sides because it's plastic. So if you want to keep it shiny, maybe use one of the included cases. I got a black one and a transparent one in the box because I pre-ordered the phone, but if you want to keep that shine, definitely use the case. Performance is what OnePlus has built their entire business around, and for many years it was performance above everything. With the Nord, they had to tone down that philosophy a bit, but in day-to-day usage, you still feel like you have a snappy device that doesn't tend to stutter in most daily tasks. But with that said, you still find the occasional stutter whilst scrolling on Twitter, for example, or apps like Google Maps or Waze don't use the full 90 Hz and instead just dial it back to 60 for performance reasons, and intense 3D games don't perform at a flagship level. Still, I can confidently say that this phone performs much closer to the flagship phones of this year with the Snapdragon 865 and the 120Hz displays than it does to the mid-range phones that you usually find. And that is mostly thanks to the 90Hz screen and the Snapdragon 765G. Also, the version of the phone that I got is the one with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, and this usually lifts up two questions. One, is 8 gigs enough, or should I go for the 12 gigs? In short, just stay with the 8 gigs unless you really need the 256 gigs of storage that come with the 12 gig version, which most people probably don't. And if you don't have wireless earbuds, maybe just spend the 89 euros in the OnePlus Buds to complement the phone. I've also made a review that should be down there if you're interested. The other question I hear is around the UFS 2.1 versus 3.0 storage. The OnePlus 8 Pro has 3.0 and the OnePlus Nord has a more budget version with UFS 2.1. In practice, the difference is going to be very small. I mean, if you have an app closed and you open it, maybe it will take a little bit extra time opening it, but we're talking about fractions of a second that most of the time are related to the Snapdragon 865 versus the 765G instead of just full-on UFS bandwidth. The phone also supports 5G if you care about that. I don't think it supports millimeter wave, but to be honest, in 2020, 5G shouldn't really be a concern for you. In the future, sure, but even if you keep this phone for 2 to 3 years, I don't think 5G millimeter wave will be around everywhere, so just don't care about it. Call quality is also on point, but unfortunately we're dealing with a single mono speaker at the bottom and a not too great one at that. I mean, for the utility of making speaker phone calls, it definitely works and it is pretty loud, but it's just not very pleasant and it is very easy to block. If you intend to watch movies on this phone with the speaker, just know that you'll be back to cupping your hand on the bottom like it's 2015, and don't expect any bass or any clear separation of the high notes. It's what I would call a everything sounds mushy and bundled together but it kinda works type of speaker. and that's a bit disappointing to me. All these corners that had to be cut were all in the name of having a €399 phone with a flagship camera. But did we actually get one? In short, yes, but also no. I think they focused too much in having quad camera design in the spec sheet, so we get two useless lenses in the shape of a 5 megapixel depth sensor and a crappy 2 megapixel macro. The other two are decent, but definitely not great. The ultra-wide is soft, and in less than ideal light, it falls apart really quickly. The main camera is the exact same as the OnePlus 8, not the 8 Pro, the 8. And like you can find in every OnePlus 8 review, it's a 7 out of 10 camera. It's decent in good light, and if you manually install the Google Camera APK, it can get pretty decently colorful in most lighting scenarios and pretty okay in night with nice colors and not too much noise. But it's never at the same level that we've come to expect from flagships that have come out this year with larger sensor cameras, for example. It's definitely a OnePlus camera of the past. It's good, but it's not great. Most people are going to be okay with it, but if you want a great camera, just look somewhere else. You also have two selfie cameras, one very wide and one with a normal field of view. They're fine, but in my opinion, they're also a weird way to spend extra money that could have been spent somewhere else. Video-wise, it can do 4K at up to 30 frames per second with both back cameras and up to 4K 60 with the front camera for whatever reason. Probably due to the limited performance of the 765G, you can't switch between lenses whilst recording video. If you start with the main camera, you can only digitally crop in, and if you start with the ultra-wide, you can't even do that. Quality-wise, it's fine, nothing great and nothing terrible, with a contrasty look to it and also great autofocus performance. It sure isn't going to be winning any awards, but most people are not going to be disappointed. The software is pretty great. You probably already know my opinion. It's the same version of Oxygen OS that we found on the OnePlus 8 Pro, and it's pretty great with all the customization and the fast Android updates. It's a joy to use. This to me is one of the best skins for Android, and it's as good as it gets. Unless you're going for a Pixel, but even then, I can definitely see how some people might prefer Oxygen OS over Google's stock Android. Finally, the battery. It's pretty fantastic. I've managed to get back-to-back days with 6-hour plus screen on time, which is really good for my usage. And if you want to make this a 2-day battery phone, simply just put the screen at 60 Hz and you will easily get 7 to 8 hours of battery and spread it across 2 days, also with pretty good standby battery. Charging is done really fast as well with the included warp charger that, from what I tested, gets you about 60% in 30 minutes, but unfortunately there isn't any sign of wireless charging despite the glass back. With all this said, there's still one unanswered question. Who is this phone really for? If you only have $399 and are looking for a good Android phone and are aware of the compromises that you're making when compared to the flagships, then this is a great phone that I can easily recommend to you. I'm just having a hard time recommending this phone to everyone because of decisions like not including dual speakers and the plastic side rim with the shiny finish, whilst at the same time wasting money on useless camera sensors. I would have traded a lot of things for the cost of those 3 extra cameras on the back and 1 at the front. Just give me this phone with a single selfie camera, a single camera at the back, dual speakers, wireless charging, and a matte back glass, and I would recommend it to everyone. But maybe that's too much to ask. Or maybe it isn't. either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did and you want to see more of my face and just technology in general, you already know what to do. But if none of this interests you and you're just here for some feline action, I'll see my way out. Bye!